Okay. Hello, everyone. This is MSJC's The Talon, and I am Eddie Landeros, the host of this Talon Talk. We have Dr. Michele Weber, our advisor. We have Castin Chamberlain, our graphic designer and writer. Seydel Perez, our correspondent, also just a superstar and loves Jennifer Lopez. And we have Jesus Alcala, great writer, great graphic designer, Professor Ron Newman, who you all know from the communications department. We have Zaina Azim, who is a Talon member, hopefully a writer this semester. Nick Pettis, our moderator, our website manager. Rony Armas, who is our advisor as well. And Cindy Lopez-Ordonez, our writer, editor-in-chief. Thank you for joining us today. And our Talon Talk will be on Zoom cameras, on or off. This is the debated subject, as we've seen in our poll on Instagram. So let's hear from our members to see whether they like their cameras on or off. It looks like a good number of us keep it on. So I'm gonna start with Dr. Weber, because she is in the top left corner. So Dr. Weber, Zoom cameras on or off, and why?
Okay, mostly Zoom cameras on. And I'll tell you why. Because to me, it shows that you are engaged, you're paying attention, you're ready to listen, plus the nonverbal cues you can play off of. Even though you're not in the same space together, there's definitely nodding of the head going on and other things like that. And so in that case, when I'm talking to people, especially my students, I feel like my camera needs to be on, not necessarily theirs, but I just feel like it's much more friendly.
So when you see a student with their camera off, how does that make you feel?
Well, it could be off-putting, but at the same time, you don't know if they're eating or if their bandwidth is slow. And so I try not to make a judgment based on whether your camera's on or off.
Very good, as it should be, because I've seen some really bad bandwidth over my time spent on Zoom. All right, next we have Castin. So Castin, you have your camera on. So cameras on or off, does it depend? How do you feel?
Well, disclaimer, I am a part of SGA and FYE first year experience. So during those meetings and when I work, I have to have my camera on no matter what. It's just, I have to be camera ready. So my bias is it's just like manners. I know that's not really the case, but the way I've been around Zoom, I always have to be camera ready because of work and SGA and the Talon and everything. Well, not necessarily at the Talon, but you guys know what I mean. So, but if it's like I'm stopping into Dr. Weber's office hours, it's like we know each other, so we don't have to keep our cameras on. We know how we talk and we know our facial expressions, but like I'm sometimes intimidated if it's just me and another person and my camera's on and their camera isn't off. I mean, or if everyone's camera is off or everyone's camera is on. It just depends.
You just want to make sure everybody's comfortable, because we had an interview the other day and we had our cameras off. So that was that more comfortable for you doing the interview?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's more about comfort for however the people just feel.
Okay, so here's a follow-up question. You enter a meeting and everybody has their camera off, but you enter with your camera on just by default. How does that feel? Do you automatically just want to turn your camera off?
Well, yeah, I just feel awkward because I feel like everyone's staring at me. Like, if it's a bunch of people and it's just me, everyone is staring at me. I'm like, well, I don't know if I like that either.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I feel that for sure. It's a weird phenomenon.
Yeah, it really just depends.
Okay, Seydel, same question. Zoom cameras on or off, how do you feel when there's a bunch of cameras on or a bunch of cameras off?
I don't, like, I'm up for both because I do understand, like Dr. Weber said, it just shows you're engaged. And like Castin said, it depends if a person is comfortable enough. For me, it's both because I'm hard of hearing, so sometimes seeing the lip movements helps me catch the word faster. And I feel that I'm a preschool teacher, so the kids learn also by seeing your mouth movement. So it's like it's pretty much a universal language that anybody can understand through facial expressions and mouth movement. Also, I do see the point of, sometimes a person's not comfortable enough being on Zoom, or like I suffer from anxiety, so sometimes it can be very overwhelming. As well, like I do understand for students as well that have to go to work before class, after class. I go to work right after my class is over, so it gives me time to hear my professor's lecture, but at the same time to get ready at the same. So it's like really convenient for me. So like I would agree with Dr. Weber and Castin both.
Okay, so follow-up question for you, because you and Cindy are pretty tight. You talk a lot. Maybe on Zoom. When
Yes.
you guys talk, are you talking with your videos on or off? Does that vary when you have like your best friend with you?
I like the camera on, even though Cindy sometimes doesn't have it on. But I like to see her because it just makes me feel like things are back, like at least a little bit normal. And it just gives me comfort seeing my friend. And, it feels like we're just talking like we used to. So it's more like a comfort thing.
Gotcha. Okay, so then I'm going to move over to Cindy because she has her camera off and we're talking about her. So Cindy, you obviously have your camera off. You usually do. Why do you have your camera off?
I think I mostly have my camera off. I think depending where I'm at, where I'm studying, if I'm in the living room, my family's there, and it's just natural for us to talk. So I'd be making facial expressions like away from the screen, and sometimes for me, I get nervous of like having everyone stare at me, because over the summer I took this course and we had to do this presentation, and they wanted us to explain things, and I got really nervous. So there's that, and I think it's more of a convenience for me. But I will say that whenever I'm talking to a person, like if it's just me and someone else on Zoom, I will go usually on camera. So it's mostly that. It's more convenient for me.
Yeah, I definitely feel that because when I'm doing a presentation, I did a presentation for last semester, and I asked the professor, hey, do you mind if our group turns off our cameras so that we can save bandwidth when we're showing our presentation? And sure enough, he went for it, and I was like, cool, because that just helped my nerves a little bit.
Yeah, I also like get like interruptions from like family members. Sometimes I have to answer phone calls and stuff like that, and it's inconvenient for me.
Absolutely.
And I think Seydel knows how my room works too, so she knows that my brother always passes by. That's another reason.
I was gonna say, for like babysitting, I mean, sometimes you got to be mobile, so you might just have your phone in your pocket and you're listening to the Zoom conversation. And if they're like doing something, you're like, hey, I got to go do that. You can't really have your camera on for that because that just causes a disruption.
Yeah, or if someone mentioned eating or something, I have to have it off. Just out of respect for someone, because I don't want them to see me eating, and they might get hungry and they can't eat. So.
Right. I was eating pretzels earlier, and I was trying to mute my mic, but I think it was some loud crunches.
Yeah. See, just my brother just came out of his room and passed by my room. So. Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, let's move over to Zaina about her camera. So you have it off. Do you prefer it off, and why?
So I do prefer my camera off, mostly because I do get nervous when I talk in Zoom meetings, or just like talking in general. It does make me really nervous. So I think like turning off my camera is just better for me in the sense that if I could see myself, I think that would just make it that much worse. Like seeing myself get nervous would not be the best. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that, and I was going to pose that question. about having the camera on, you know, when it's you, because you have the option to take yourself out of it,
Yeah, yeah,
but then you
exactly.
can't see what's going on. Like sometimes I'll have my cats or something in the background. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
need to make sure that's not in the view. But yeah, I totally get that.
I also like don't have a desk in my room, so I do work in my loft, and it's like right next to my stairs. So a lot of family members are like always passing by, so that probably wouldn't be the best idea. And then I also have cats, and they're like always walking on my keyboard and stuff, so probably not the best idea, but yeah.
And then a follow-up question for you. When we first got into Zoom, because I'm sure that most of us started Zoom because we went into the pandemic. How did you feel about this platform when you first started? Were you automatically like, I do not want to have my camera off or on or off?
Definitely. I was like really scared about having my camera on and stuff, but overall it's been okay. I don't have a lot of teachers that like require me having my camera on, so it's okay in that regard. But yeah, I think I definitely was nervous at first, but it's gotten better with time.
That's good to hear. Yeah, and I hope, you know, it seems like students that I interact with, they are feeling a little bit more comfortable with being on camera or at least expressing themselves. So good to hear. All right, I'm gonna move to Professor Newman because his is very interesting. When he has his camera off, it's a be right back kind of deal. So it's interactive. So what was your choice with that? Do you prefer Zoom camera on or off?
So I prefer it on. So when I'm in a meeting, whether I'm hosting the meeting or I'm just a member of the meeting, I will have my camera on. And I teach communication, so I'm going to throw some communication stuff at you. 85% of communication is nonverbal. So if the camera is off and you're only hearing a voice, you're only getting 15% or only 15%. You know, we're missing a lot of the information. And the other thing that it kind of helps is, as the instructor, if I've got the camera on, it's helping the students make a connection with the instructor, not only with my face and my voice, but you look at the personality that the instructor is displaying in the background, right? So, I mean, and not to call it out, and normally it's end of the day, so the room's a little bit messier than I'd like. When we first logged on, I had a bag of dog food behind me that I had to lay down. The pillows are not, normally the pillows would be arranged. I've got little baby Yoda peeking out the corner there. And does anyone recognize this book? No super nerds?
No super nerds? No, I don't recognize that.
It's a D&D player's guide. I've had students call me out on that because they recognize it, right? There are movies in the background. I've got Star Wars pictures in the background. There are Star Wars pictures, maps in the background. So that can help students say, hey, this is an actual real person, not just a talking head there. So I think it helps with the student engagement with me. You pointed out that I have a picture here. So I use this when I've got office hours and I don't want to just sit on camera when no one else is there. So I'll put the picture up, and then if a student logs on, I see that they've logged on, then I'll go back on the camera. But sometimes I'll wander away or I'll do something and it just lets them know that, you know, I'll be right back. But again, it shows personality, right? Because I've made a choice to show Buddy, my little Chiweenie. He's a Chihuahua dachshund, right? So that you know, that says something. If Dr. Weber puts a picture of her dog up there, it's a different dog, and it says something different, right? So there is that. So I think having the camera on is important in that aspect. Now, if you're a student, maybe you don't want to show all that, because what's your situation? I've had students that are logging in from a closet, from a bathroom, from a shared bedroom, from a hallway, kitchens with dirty dishes in the background. Maybe that's not the best. So, you know, having the camera off is fine as an instructor. I don't mind. I do ask my students to put an avatar or a picture up there if they don't want their own picture. Put something up there so I'm not staring at black boxes with names. I want to see, what, show me your personality in that picture. So I think it works. Well, I'm trying the whole avatar thing this semester, so we'll see if it's better or not. But I can tell you, sitting for an hour on a Zoom meeting, staring at black boxes, not very energizing as an instructor. So.
Absolutely. And I think we covered that at the last meeting too with Justin because of his profile picture. I mean, you didn't even recognize who it was because he didn't have his profile picture.
He's in my class, but he didn't use the same picture. So, it's like putting on a different face and meeting some people that right? So, yeah.
This is
And then there's the interesting thing with, and I'm like Rony, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, it's Gotham.
Yeah.
The bat signal in the back, right?
Oh.
So you've got the virtual backgrounds. So that's another way to do it if your computer can do it. Some computers can't do it without a green screen. So, yeah.
Right. And that's a good segue into my next three people who all have virtual backgrounds. So I'll start with Jesus, because Jesus usually always, and then I'll go to Rony, but Jesus usually has his Talon background for the virtual experience. How do you feel about the virtual background?
Oh, well, virtual background's great because I also sometimes have people walk behind me, and this thing cuts off all of that, so I don't have to worry about that. With the camera though, I do leave it on for Talon, but if it's some other setting, I usually have it off unless I'm going to speak. I didn't really think about it before today, so it's just a thing of like when I go to the Talon, it's on all the time. But when I'm not, I never bother to press that button. So it's like I never thought about it, but yeah, that's how it is. But virtual background's great. Sometimes though, it has bugged out on me, and it'll just randomly pop my actual background, which is just my messy bedroom. So, but a quick reset fixes that just right up.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to the virtual background, because it's by default sometimes, I know that there's some people who wear multiple hats, like when they go into Zoom meetings. So they might have one background for another and then another. And that can be kind of, it can be accidental because you might have like a goofy background that you're doing for a party. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to go into this professional work meeting, and you enter, and then boom, you got like someone in their underwear in the background. That's not always a good sign. So do you use any other virtual backgrounds besides your Talon one? And has it got you in trouble?
No, and even if it's not for the Talon, it's still just my default background. So it's always on. Gotcha.
All right. Well, let's move and see now. Professor Newman has his virtual background for forensics representing. And let's move on to Nick, because he has the Talon virtual background as well. So Nick, you prefer your camera on or off, and how does the virtual background feel?
As a former performing artist, I always loved having the spotlight on me, all eyes on me. And with Zoom, that's pretty much how I feel, because all eyes would be on me when I'm talking and they can see me. So I love having my camera on. As for my virtual background, I move all over the place when I'm working or editing for us, or just in a lecture for a professor. So I have my background on so no one can see where I am or what I'm doing right then and there. So that's how I feel about that.
So you mentioned that you were a performing arts person and you were in theater. And so the stage isn't new to you. So, but with the virtual world, or with, Zoom cameras, it could be a totally different experience. You might have more nerves. Do you feel that way? How do you feel with this versus being on the stage?
Well, honestly, as Shakespeare once said, all the world is a stage, and all the people are players. So honestly, our Zoom is like a theater space. So it's not that much of a difference for me. It's like 1 minute I'm standing on the stage performing a show, and then I'm in a Zoom meeting here talking to you guys about a podcast. It's no difference, really.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I feel subconscious sometimes. You know, I try to arrange my background in a way that's presentable, and also like Professor Newman had mentioned with his background, and also with Ronnie's. I mean, there's certain subtle things that I want somebody to point out and be like, "Oh, I really like that," you know. So let's move over to Ronnie, you know, because that is just really subtle, and the way he does it, it's Batman. But it's something special. So why do you choose Batman for your virtual background? And how do you feel about Zoom cameras and virtual backgrounds in general?
So it's interesting because I am by nature an introvert. But I think the role that a person plays kind of dictates how we approach the camera, right? I do lean towards camera on for all the same reasons that we've just talked about, right? To be able to see the person, to read the body language, to get those, the little nuances from the backgrounds, right? Oh, that person's into Star Wars, so am I. There's connection there, right? To learn about each other, especially because we are separate right now. Everyone, we're in our own cubby holes, and how else can we learn about each other and try and connect? I think it's important that we do kind of try and give those signals, especially in this time. And role plays a part. I am at the moment president of Classified Senate, and I had requested that when we have our meetings, that the board members, the executive board members, do have their cameras on, because I feel that it can create a sense of comfort, right, of community when folks come on. I don't require that everyone that comes as guests or just want to come in and listen have it on, but I want folks to know who their representatives are, and to, again, feel that comfort level that we are here as a community to support you. So there's a lot of definitely the benefits to having the camera on. There's all the communication aspects, but I will tell you deep down inside, I'm a cameraman. That's what my avatar is. That I work behind the lens. I'm not in front of the lens. So there is deep down a little bit of that apprehension every time I happen to, glance in the corner and be like, oh, dang, I'm there. I see myself. You get a little bit self-conscious. It's a work in progress, I think, for all of us. I think that there's probably a little bit of a common denominator there for most people. But it's definitely outweighed, especially in these times, for the need to try and just connect and hopefully inspire and motivate some community in folks. And it's, in terms of the background, I am totally 100% trying to give a sense of who I am and what I'm into with my background. I'm from LA originally, Dodger fan, and that's downtown LA, helicopter shot right from downtown LA, and that is the bat signal. I did not Photoshop that. That is real, and it was a celebration of Adam West when he passed away. There was a big, huge celebration in downtown LA. I am a Batman fan, and they had the Batmobile there, and the original Robin was there, and it was just this really cool, great way of kind of bringing community together, right? And so living out here in the desert, I gotta represent. So this is, anytime I'm on, folks are gonna always remember I'm an LA kid all day long, through and through, and that I'm a Batman fan. And there's some subtlety there too, right? If you know who Batman is and what he stands for, there's gonna be a little fight in me to do what's right. And I'm gonna always try and inspire that in folks as well. So definitely some intentional subliminal messaging there. And I just spilled the beans all over the place right now for everyone to know my secret, my secret identity. Shh.
Are you saying that you are Batman?
I
Rony?
did not say that, but you will never see him and me in the same room at the same time. Just saying.
I think we found him. That's awesome. No, I mean that's great to know, you know, and that's always something that's kind of felt taboo, is like when you see someone's virtual background, or you see like their their presence in their own space, is like, do you compliment on what's in their background, or is it too far? It's like, don't be looking at my room, just be looking at me. So I'm gonna throw that question to Zaina first. Do you feel like it's taboo to ask people like what's in their background, or just compliment them?
I think to some extent, maybe. Like it might be something that they don't want to talk about, or I don't know, something along those lines. But I think if they don't have a virtual background, then maybe it's okay. Maybe they don't really care about what's like around them, or I don't know.
Right, and I guess it kind of depends on if your camera's on or off as well. So
Exactly.
if your camera's
Yeah.
off and you're like,
Definitely.
hey, I like your toilet, then it's not going to be well received.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Seydel? How do you feel about it?
It's fun. I once put Joe Exotic as my background, and people loved it. My teacher loved it as well. So it makes it fun for, people to just interact. It's like a little icebreaker, like a Zoom icebreaker.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it's nice to have fun with it. I mean, if we're going to be in this environment, we might as well just be a little bit open to what's in our background if we're going to show it to the world, So Dr. Weber, do you want to weigh in on this?
I do. All the people that are ending up on the news channels, CNN, MSNBC, and whatnot, in their little boxes, are doing so from home, and they have this thing called Room Rater on Twitter that literally rates and goes through flowers or vibe, and I mean, people are very into making sure they get 10s out of 10s due to what's going on in their background. So it's a thing in the real world, and people notice it. So it's definitely nonverbal communication to be aware of.
Exactly. So I'm going to move on to the next subject, and we're going to be almost done. So I have 3 more people to focus on, and then the next section, which I'll finish with our final people, which will be Castin, Professor Newman, and Cindy. But I want to focus on the camera people, the professional camera people, which are Nick, Jesus, and Rony. I feel like you have a sense of cinematography or a love for film. So I'm going to do something right now, and tell me how you feel about people who do this. Hello. How do you feel about a camera angle that's like this or like that? I'll start with Rony.
So each one of those gives a completely different story about the person. I actually am a cinematographer and photographer for like the last 20 years. I actually have worked in film productions in Hollywood. So the first one, where you're standing up and the camera's looking up at you, normally in a story setting, that's supposed to exemplify some kind of power and whatnot. But in this setting, if somebody did that, it would look a little bit arrogant, and it would look very much as a disrespectful, a disregard for the situation, for the people in the room and whatnot. So that first, just kind of looking down on the camera, and not cool. And I would definitely say something. Batman would not let that fly. In terms of the other ones, if they're just kind of peeking out the corner or like halfway in frame or whatnot, that to me probably would just say it's a little bit of carelessness or just very busy, multitasking, and probably attention is spread thin. it's more of this, because obviously it's not a great camera shot, right? So, but it does speak to the personality or into the situation. There's some kind of distraction going on, right? There's just too much going on inside the mind or out here, and the person is just not focused. So camera angles speak a lot in terms of, again,
character
Ron
and
Newman's
perception.
background, right? That says something. The angle says something. Even the attire, right? What I'm wearing, you know, I wear this hat on purpose too. LA. Things that we wear, right? Uh-oh.
With the
There we go.
angels.
The angels.
Wow.
But, the other day when it came on the meeting and I was wearing the same Talon shirt, right? Proud to wear that. You know, we got to think about things in terms of branding, right? Our personality is branding as well. If we're not necessarily branding a company and organization, you're still branding yourself. And so I would say for folks to be wary of what those camera angles say about you, because people very instinctively come to judgments even without necessarily being 100% aware that they're making that judgment.
Absolutely. Yeah, but you know, it becomes the whole outfit that you're
Mhm.
wearing. That says a lot about you. And yes, Castin, it is psychological, you know, and it'd be interesting just to see the research that we go into for this. So I want to ask Nick next about the same thing, camera angles. Does it offend you when someone isn't paying full attention to you from your perspective?
As a video editor for the Talon and as a former performing artist, yes, I do get irritated when people are just not looking at us. It's like, it bugs me. And I would, if I was hosting a Zoom meeting and I was recording it, I would stop, ask you to fix your angle, and then I'd make it start all over.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I mean, if we're creating content for the page and we're interviewing somebody, we might want to think about the professionalism on their end as well, you know, even with the background. Just for their sake too, because, you know, if we post that and they're like, hey, look, my dirty clothes are in the background, why didn't you say anything? Like, well, you know, so that's a good point.
Thank you.
Professor Newman, you had something?
No, I went and found a new background because I thought it would be more interesting.
What is that MSJC?
No, that's actually Jason Isaacs, the dude that plays Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter series. This is his actual background in his house when he's done interviews. And you can't really read it there. But if you go full screen, you can. It says impressive book collection on the top.
Gosh.
And then it says mysterious artistic objects there. So someone going out of their way to cater to, you know, the Zoom background thing. So
that's funny. Yeah, I mean, like something like that. And I can't even see Malfoy because you cover him so well.
Yeah, then I cover him up, right?
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I'll get rid of him because he's a celebrity and I'm not. So no virtual background. There we go.
But you know, those camera angles where it's the person has the camera way close to their face. I mean, nobody really wants to see your nose hairs, stuff like that. I mean, and this is, I mean, so definitely something to think about. Absolutely, yes.
So Jesus, I'm actually going to pose another question. As a student, you might be familiar with this. The teachers, this might irk them. When someone's like this. What am I doing right there? Do you know?
Most likely checking your phone.
Texting. Yes.
I hope you're texting.
I'm sorry, I do it.
Yes, and I was gonna move it over to you after this, Seydel. Jesus, how does that make you feel when someone's texting or on their phone appearingly?
Oh, well,
Do you do it?
oh yes, I do it. Man, yeah, it's just when I see that notification light, I just instinctively press the home button and just see what it is. Usually it's not important at all. I don't know why, but it's kind of like that slave to your phone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like I said, 99% of the time, it does not matter if I get to it in that second, but it's just such a natural thing. I don't think about it. It's instinctive. As for when I see someone else do it, it's not that bothersome. I think that has to do with all the communication courses where I had to do presentation. It's like you see plenty of students not really, not everyone pays attention to you. And for me, it just becomes a thing of like, I kind of like just glaze over them and then focus more on the people who seem more interested in the presentation. So yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't really bother me that much because I just glaze. It just becomes something in the background of my mind. I don't focus on it.
Right. I'm going to move this over to Seydel because I think she's pretty passionate about this. So Seydel.
I don't even have friends. Cindy's like my only. No, I'm just kidding. You guys are my friends too. But I don't really text so much because I don't have too many friends. I mean, I do, but they're all like living their grown-up lives. I don't text often, but I think that like through Zoom now, I actually do. I know it's so bad. I'm sorry. But it's usually like if it's on camera, I try not to do it very often, but it's usually if it's something really important. During live like class, I would not do it at all. There was only one time that I actually did do it. That was like my first time ever that I actually like texted in class, and it was so bad because I guess the professor was going around asking everybody to repeat a Spanish word, and then it was my turn, and like he was looking at me the whole time for a whole minute, and I was just texting, and it was very embarrassing because people were waiting. But it was funny, but that taught me a lesson, even if it's like something important. It was my mom, but I just, after that, I told my mom, please don't text me while I'm at school because that was so embarrassing. But I'm so sorry, Professor Snyder, you are so awesome. I won't do it ever again.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's a problem. I mean, I think all of us can agree, being in the virtual world, especially being on your screen all the time, having your phone readily available. And instead of being in a classroom, you have that ability to kind of gauge what's around you without anybody like really focusing unless they're looking at your eyes. So it's a problem. There's a new set of formalities that we have to go through with the Zoom world. So I'm going to end this with 3 people. And I want you to just give me a brief overview of where to go from here. How can we help each other reach common ground between Zoom conversations and courtesies? So Castin, I'll start with you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Cool. So one thing, including this is a great example, patience. I feel like having patience with people's technical difficulties, and sometimes I feel like, for the camera angle example, maybe, at least for my dad, if he was on Zoom, he'd do the same thing. He just wouldn't know what happened. But I feel like just being a little more compassionate, being like, hey, if this person isn't comfortable with their camera on, we don't know the situation, that's fine. It's not hurting yourself or anyone, so why not just be courteous? I feel like that's just a good way to find common ground. It's simple, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, when this initially started, there's a real push for like, let's all be professional and, you know, don't have your cats in front of the Zoom thing, like, you know, keep everything straight, like don't have your babies in the background or something like that. And maybe it was a little overboard when we started it because, you know, it's hard to manage everything at once. It's hard to keep those distractions at bay. So I think that's a good point. Cindy, what about you? How do you feel about this?
I think when I was thinking it over as why I keep mine, you know, from when I go to school, I control my image, right? Because I can dress a certain way or look a certain way, and that's me over there. But at my house, it's completely different. And, you know, I can't control, you know, what my family does or what I do or how my room is or, you know, other factors. So I can't present like an image of, you know, a student as well as someone who wants to work and have a future career somewhere. So for me, it's more about kind of maintaining professionalism, even if I'm off screen, because I don't want people to see the other stuff that goes around in my environment. So I think and you know, I think maybe it's not assuming that people are not paying attention, because I have some classes where even if I'm off camera, I have to pay attention. I cannot get distracted one bit. Organic chemistry will not let you do that, by the way. So
that is a really good point. You know, there's a lot that can arise if you have your camera on, and it could be embarrassing, even in a job interview. You know, and some job interviews, probably most job interviews, require a camera to be on so they can see who they're working with and how professional they can be in a work environment. But that could limit a lot of people because not everyone has that advantage of being in that kind of environment where everything's professional. And at the end of the day, it's just all in the quality of your work. So I think that's really something to think about for careers and jobs going forward.
yeah. Yeah, I had an interview for this program a while back, and I had to do a Zoom interview, but at the same time, I was in the living room, and then my little brother was coming in and out, and we were having conversations, and he's loud, by the way, sometimes, so he would kind of be like interrupting me. So I think, you know, can't control that.
Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to end this with our director advisor, Dr. Weber. How do you feel about all of this, and how can we move from here?
My suggestion, and essentially what I've learned from all of this, is to not prejudge people. Castin said be patient, but you know, you don't know why someone's got their camera off. Usually when mine goes off, it's because I have 2 old dogs that need to go outside all the time, and so I feel like it's the polite thing to turn it off, go let them out, and come back. And we don't always know, and so it's that compassion, that empathy, that understanding, and that not prejudging one another. I also think that Zoom fatigue was a thing. I don't have it as much anymore, though. I mean, sad to say, gotten kind of used to it because it's just the way that things are now. And I'll take that human connection over no connection all day. So it's a trade-off. For now, until we get COVID behind us, I'm just happy to be able to talk to all of you in your own homes and just be a part of your lives. And to me, that it's worth it.
Yeah, I think this conversation, more than anything, just really expresses that. You know, I have a lot of fun in any conversation we do. The last Talon Talk we did was our Secret Santa episode, and we just had so much fun just appreciating each other and talking about the mistakes and also just the good things, the qualities that we bring to the table. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's just all about communication. We have Justin, who just joined us at the very end of the conversation. Thank you for joining us, Justin. He says he deleted Among Us for Robin Hood.
Deleted Among Us.
Well, awesome. Justin, Zoom cameras on or off before we end this?
I would say off. Not
Off?
to be biased or anything, but.
And why is that?
I would say I would say off because, well, I mean, whoever you're like on Zoom from, you might not want to like show like where you're at, just to like for privacy reasons, I would say. And like if anyone's like else is in the room, like you don't want to show them on camera in case they don't want to be on camera.
Right. So privacy is really the big thing when it comes to Zoom cameras on or off, and so we've established that. And I think that's only going to be the same moving forward. But like Dr. Weber clarified, Castin and Cindy, it's just about courtesies and understanding that we're all in these different situations, that as long as we get the work done, you know, and communicate, that's what it's all about. So I'm going to share our poll list. We had, anyone want to guess which one, on or off?
Off.
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 58% for on, 42% for off.
I knew it.
See
That was
Yeah,
that
I
was
guess.
on Instagram.
Wow.
That was on
Yeah.
Instagram, yes. So, so yeah, so on is preferred by our Instagram pollers. Thank you for participating in that. We look forward to having more polls for you to take advantage of. This was a really great talk. I am looking forward to our future talks. Next week, we will be doing Valentine's Day, and I hope you can tune in for that. That's it's probably going to be a mess. But I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you for watching. I'm Eddie Landeros. We have Dr. Weber, Castin Chamberlain, Seydel Perez, Jesus Alcala, Professor Newman, Zaina Azim, Nick Pettis, Rony Armas, Cindy Lopez-Ordonez, and Justin Issleib. Issleib? How do you pronounce that?
It's Issleib.
Issleib. Okay. See, I almost had it all, but we're good.
Yeah, you were close.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.